Bold Like a Leopard, and they were going to be doing an interview for American Greatness, where I write typically a lot of my articles, doing not just reporting but reviews of books and sometimes different magazines and things like that. So there is a new print magazine out, and some of you may have heard about it if you go on Gab or Minds. It's called Flip City, and we're here with the creators, Scott and Christy McKenzie, and I actually bought a 6 issue starter pack, but they are from like last year, so I don't have your latest stuff. How are you guys doing?
Yeah,
And
doing
you know,
great. We need
have
to
you?
get you up to date, right?
Yeah,
We need
have
to
you?
get you up to date on those.
Well, yeah, I'll go on later and look at some of the latest stuff. But so has it been like a lot of work just day to day just to put it up, or is it something more like on the off hours working on this? Because it's very intensive. You have a lot of artwork to deal with and layouts,
Oh, it's all consuming. It's consumed our lives at this point for the last 3 years. So,
artwork to deal with and
and
layouts.
we started out with a it's all four-issue a consuming. It's year model, and consumed we've our moved up lives to at this six point for the issues a last year. 3 years. So every
So
2 months we have a new title coming out, and we kind of did that because we didn't want to put out one thing and try to get attention for it and sell it and have nothing coming up. We wanted to be demanding of ourselves and have a routine and put out material consistently.
okay, and so it's been a long period of time since print magazines were really like in vogue. People would go down to the newsstand or get a subscription, and they've survived in some form, but they've been on decline, especially since the turn of the millennium. What made you decide to open one yourselves, and in the even more difficult satire category?
Well, yeah, the satire magazine, of course, has been in deep decline. Back in the 1970s and 80s, you still had quite a few titles going. And as it got into the 90s, focus shifted to men's magazines like Details and Maxim and lifestyle magazines. And the humor magazine went into decline for the most part. And seeing as so much media is web based right now and stays on the web, we thought there was a big opening and opportunity for a print magazine that people would enjoy being able to hold in their hands and read the pages of. And of course, your only other option in the satire market is Mad Magazine. And in the 1980s, Mad Magazine became corporate, and by now it's an extremely woke publication and doesn't reflect our interests or values. So we thought this was something that we needed in American culture.
So yeah, we'll definitely get back to Mad and Cracked in a little bit. So before you started this magazine, how were you? What exactly was your main focus in life? Both you and Christy, were you into like art and satire, whether in writing or in visual form, or is this something that you sort of gravitated to because of the void that you're talking about, since Mad has kind of disappeared from the scene?
No, I'm an old fan of Mad Magazine and Cracked especially, and I grew up with those and with things like the Dr. Demento radio show with the funny songs. And I'd done cartooning since I was a teenager, off and on, independent projects and stuff. So I had the arts education, so we were set up and we had a lot of ideas and needed to take them somewhere.
So you already mentioned like Mad, which is iconic. I would say Mad is one of the reasons that I became sort of literate because I used to spend a lot of time at the library, often trying to like avoid going to school, and I just read like a lot of the magazines, but especially every month Mad would come out. I'd read it cover to cover. I didn't care if it was a library copy. I'd do the fold in and everything. And generations of American
Yeah.
kids grew up reading Mad and to lesser extent Cracked and getting real countercultural takes on culture and society. But then their last years, so I believe they did go out of business in 2018. They became very repetitive and stale, and I actually had gotten enough money to get a Mad subscription only a couple years before, and it was just the same stuff every single issue. There were no original takes on any movies like you used to see, especially with Star Wars. Do you see Flip City being
Yeah.
able to tap into the same audience, or are you looking to build a totally different type of following?
Well, yeah, I think we can tap into that audience. I think there's a burgeoning audience of people who want funny takes instead of corporate takes. So there's lots of people I think would be anxious for something like this.
Well, we do have a good number of subscribers that subscribe solely because they were Cracked or Mad fans. So yeah, I mean, we really are appealing to the Mad and Cracked fans, and a bit of nostalgia at this point. We'd love to youngin our audience a little bit and give them the experience of holding physical media that makes you laugh.
And we're bringing in more and more parodies, the classic parodies of the satire magazines. And we've done Walking Dead. Ours was The Woking Dead. We've got a Stranger Things parody coming up for our Halloween magazine. So, we try to tap pop culture elements too, to try to keep a wide range of, audience. We hope.
Yeah, I can definitely see the resemblance. Like, I'll just show the audience here. This is the parody of Friends, like updated for like the 21st century, and the layout, especially I would call it like an overtitle. So I remember Mad used to have all these little like I used to look at them as hidden messages, even though they're not, and they'd have them like run under the title. So I think you're bringing it very true to the format that many of us old fans of the magazine were used to. Um, from your material, Flips with Flip City, you seem to draw a lot of influence from internet memes that are popular among conservatives. Do you have a strategy to appeal to the more mainstream normie types who are used to watching shows like The Bachelor, or do you think it's like a waste of time and those people they're not really going to look at a product like Flip City?
No, I don't. I think that's why we're emphasizing bringing modern mainstream parodies in, because we've actually made an effort in this magazine to not make it so partisan. It's not a political magazine. It doesn't champion any politicians' causes, and so we really are trying to leave it open for the middle of the road person to understand why such things are worth laughing at. Yeah.
In the title, you also call Flip Cities it's America's Last Laugh. So it's an ironic take on the declining creative freedom. Or at
Yeah.
least that's the way I'm taking it. Declining creative freedom, censorship. Comedians and humorists basically they have to sort of hold their tongue a lot. Have you considered directly taking the issue on, such as dropping off copies in college campuses and places where people who are likely to be unexposed to this type of humor, that they would find it and sort of pick it up and get used to it?
Yeah, we've considered that. We've got to find which campuses those are. But in the web age, it's like you have the potential of reaching so many more people online quickly rather than trying to find them by distributing paper copies or something like that. So that's just a matter of resources and time and effort.
So you decided that the magazine wouldn't pull punches when it came to conservative politicians or commentators that don't follow through on their promises. Do you have people who write back to you, even like let's say from the beginning, and they get defensive? They call it like friendly fire, the Dan Crenshaw types, and they sort of tell you that you're being disloyal. Because I did see, I don't have that issue, but I did see you guys made fun of Conservative Inc. during one issue.
Yeah, we took a few shots at people on the conservative side who we think are acting like gatekeepers, and we also gave our full explanation of why these people deserve criticism. For instance, we took a shot at Dennis Prager for going after Ben Garrison, and it looks like trying to get him disinvited from a White House event because that's not a good thing to do. And a lot of people in conservative ink have their message, and they want to stick with that, and they're not interested. They're not necessarily free speech purists, and so what we do is maybe a little too real, you know.
Yeah, and I get that sentiment, and very well, because I wouldn't say I belong to a certain movement within the GOP, but certainly when you have people within the circle, like especially like Dan Crenshaw is the one I brought up, because he literally will
Yeah,
behave as if people who are questioning election integrity or are talking about withdrawing troops from overseas, he'll behave as if they are disloyal to the flag and disloyal to the party, I guess, as if the party is something that has to be guarded like some sort of temple. So I think it's encouraging that you stick up for free speech, especially. I was actually going to mention Ben Garrison in a minute, but I see the same thing, because I've written articles, even though I have very little common ground with him. But Andrew Torba, for example, is somebody I've defended a lot, because you just see people who are going after him and seem to be looking to limit freedom of speech, not only by through publishing decisions, but by actual legal censorship. So
hmm
it's definitely a problem, I think, within the conservative movement. Several conservative cartoonists, such as Ben Garrison, have been able to garner major followings and become major influences in the political sphere. Do you want the magazine to be tied to such a movement like he has, or would you prefer to have a totally independent reputation like South Park, for example?
yeah, we don't want to be tied to a movement. I mean, we try to free ourselves by that. We don't load our magazine up with what some on the right might anticipate. Like we said, it doesn't promote Trump. It's or Pepe, or any of the icons that we've gotten to know on the right. We really aspire to making a mainstream magazine, because we do believe that our takes are the mainstream. They have just been cast as and marginalized as fringe when they're really mainstream values, and so we want to take that place back.
Yeah, I get that. I think it's something that even people who call themselves, or they're not called that, but they want to be like acceptable in the mainstream as conservatives. People like Shapiro and Michael Knowles, they try to say that, well, the real mainstream isn't what is on HBO. It isn't what's on Hulu and things like RuPaul's Drag Race. They typically want to say, well, they're only marketing to one small segment of the American people. So
Mm-hmm.
I would say that you're certainly offering like a much different perspective on that, because Mad and that type of format, it was never like directed towards some, like the Reagan Revolution, or on the other hand, true liberalism, like the Bill Maher type of liberalism. It usually would fire in both directions. Um,
Yeah, absolutely.
so
They
when you,
take on
yeah, go ahead.
they take on the churchies, but they'd make fun of the hippies as well, for the most part.
So do you have artists who will come to you, they'll have like an idea, and they might say, and you might say, well, this is a little too more like something that is um, demagoguery, like promoting a certain person or something, or do you usually like give them like full creative freedom?
Yeah, it's not so much that they would promote people, but a lot of people will submit material that gets a little bit preachy, a little bit finger wagging, especially with the Faucis and the Bill Gates. And my take on that is, even if the art is good, well, maybe the message needs to be modified a little. It's not that the idea needs to be toned down. It needs to be lightened up and executed in a funny fashion. So that you walk away laughing.
Okay, so what can people expect now? You've sort of established the magazine. It's on, what is it, like a monthly basis now. What can they expect going
every other
forward?
month.
Every other month?
It would,
Sorry. So every
yeah, no problem.
six issues
Yeah,
a year?
6 issues a year. Well, we are going to continue to put out the high quality, funny parody material of your latest TV and movies, as well as political satire. We do editorial material when we find something deserving, and we're going to keep going with the flow here because we're interested to see what's going to happen in the midterms. What happens if Trump comes up back on the scene? How do we handle that? Because we're not we're not a superhero Trump publication that's promoting, like we said, any candidate. So we just follow the news fervently and see and we like to pick up on the trends and see what's happening and developing and play off of those things. So greatness will continue in Flip City magazine and lots of comedy.
And is it difficult to find people who can write biting satire because it's like this isn't like back. I mean, maybe 40 years ago, people were much more prude, and nowadays you have like stuff that's on the web that's just like patently obscene. And the Babylon Bee, for example, they like to say like we've sort of run out of ways to write satire because this stuff just keeps coming true. Like do you have like a similar perspective on that, or is it much easier than they say?
Well, finding writers who can handle it, yeah, it is a challenge. We have lots of artists who are great, and sometimes they contribute their own writing, and a lot of it's very good, and we use it the way it is. But yeah, nailing down the angle on satire is not an easy thing for people to do. So we're very selective.
All right, so I think that's it for me today, but
Okay,
I will tell people go to, I think it's flipcitymag.com.
that's correct.
You can order a 6 issue package. You can order there is a yearly subscription, right? And
Yes,
I actually know somebody who's I've actually known him for I think 5 or 6 years. Dave McDowell.
yes,
he's one of the most like he knows how to make like a really grotesque satirical drawing. So I
yeah,
highly recommend
he's
it.
great.
This
Hmm.
is I believe, I think it's from June of last year. So it's Bill
But
Gates.
well, yeah, 2 years ago actually, you got issue 2 in your hands
Uh,
right there,
okay.
and we're coming out with issue 14 coming up, which is our Halloween spooktacular, which will be filled with spooks, spies, glowies, feds, groomers, and more. And that'll be 52 pages, so you might want to get your hands on that.
Yeah, I'm definitely gonna look into more of this, and this is exactly, in my opinion, what once Mad like sort of went away. I was like, man, I mean, did they really have to like kill the goose that laid the golden egg? But I think you guys have sort of
Yeah,
revived it in zombie form, and it's gonna take over. So
that was our goal.
yeah, thanks a lot, and good luck,
Yeah,
and I hope to be in touch with you again.
thank you, Ray. We appreciate it.
All right, have a good night.
All right, you too.
Bye bye. So that was our interview with Scott and Christy McKenzie from Christy was sort of off camera, but from Flip City magazine, and basically, this is one of the few publications right now that's actually willing to put their stuff in print and send it out there and really bring great satirical artwork out there. So, yeah, go look at the description. They have a link there and see if it sort of meets the standards of the old school Mad and Cracked magazines. Talk to you guys later. Please like, share, and subscribe, and check out the link tree below for all of the different social media and video hosting platforms that we're on.